following sermon was delivered at the 10:30 worship service at the United Methodist Church of Kent. Please enjoy.
Well, today's gospel that we just heard is certainly filled with apocalyptic imagery. Jesus describes to us a world filled with wars and earthquakes and food shortages and epidemics and persecutions of persons for their faith. It is, frankly, the sort of imagery that gets picked up and twisted in the popular imagination rather frequently, reminding us, unfortunately, that there is a lot of money to be made and power to be held in peddling fear and conspiracy theories. But before we're given those images, today's story begins by its setting. Some people were talking about the temple. Specifically, we're told they are marveling at the temple's splendor, its beautiful stones, and its ornaments. In the story just before this one in Luke's gospel, they are marveling too at all of the wealthy worshipers who are there. And so apparently it is all of it quite a show, which is, quite frankly, just as it was designed to be, a marvelous show to grab and to hold folks' attention. Originally constructed about 5 centuries earlier, just after folks had returned to Jerusalem after their exile over in Babylon, the temple was significantly enhanced then by Herod the Great about 20 years before Jesus' birth. While our Gospels remember Herod the Great, as paranoid and violent, ruling the region for Rome at the time Jesus was born, historians and archaeologists tend to remember him quite differently, primarily as a builder, with the temple in Jerusalem, sometimes even called Herod's Temple, as the jewel of his architectural crown. Those who saw the temple could not help but notice its spectacular decorations. Jesus' disciples certainly noticed, everyone noticed, and Jesus, for his part, he noticed them noticing. And so Jesus said to them, "Take a good look at this magnificent building, its enormous stones, its splendor, its artistry. All these things that you are here admiring, the time is coming when not even one stone will be left upon another. All will be demolished." How can this be, the disciples wondered, both among themselves and then out loud to Jesus. This place is indestructible. It's a mighty fortress. How can it ever be destroyed? For those who gathered there that day could not begin to imagine what the writer of the gospel knew, that by the year 70, just a few decades after this conversation, all that would be left of Herod the Great's great temple was a pile of broken stones. And eventually, of course, the same fate would come to the Roman Empire itself, which Herod represented, just as to every other empire ever before and since. All of their fancy buildings, all of their symbols of imperial wealth and military power, the buildings that shaped societies and were made to last the test of time, all of them failed that test eventually. Even the temple that Jesus was talking about that day, that everyone was admiring, even that was the second temple constructed on that site, because the first one had been destroyed by an earlier empire, by the Babylonians, more than 500 years before. And so Jesus tells us today about wars and insurrections, food shortages and pandemics, all of those disasters that we call natural and those we certainly hope are not, to remind us that none of it lasts forever. All of those places and routines and institutions and governments and personalities that shape and inform us, in which we place our trust, all these things, Jesus says to us today, will be demolished eventually. For the times, they are a-changin'. And then just when we think it can't get any harder or more unsettling than all of this, then Jesus makes it up close and personal. You, he says to us, bringing us now right into the middle of all of this massive change. You we'll be arrested and harassed, thrown into prison, hauled into court. Right then, in that moment, when everything feels so shaky, when the world within and the world without are being pummeled by grief upon grief, cascading, intersecting crises of every kind, just when it seems that lies and conspiracies have choked out the truth, that sound bites have replaced substance and noise has replaced nuance. Just then, when it feels like greed and need are always inevitable and wars are eternal, just then, when the earth is trembling beneath your feet and you struggle to find your footing, just then, Jesus says to us, this will be your opportunity to testify. What great news, right? Maybe not. For what can any of us say or do in the face of so much upheaval, so many wars and insurrections and food shortages and epidemics? Perhaps some of us are wondering that right now today. What can we say? What should we do? How shall we respond? But Jesus assures us, I will give you words and wisdom. And then this, by holding fast, you will gain your lives. When all hell is breaking loose in the world around us, or in the world within us, when the winds of hatred and fear are blowing hard against us, and the waves of violence and, let's be frank, autocracy are threatening to overwhelm us, we may be tempted in those seasons to look away, to pull the covers up over our heads, to step back, to hope that nobody notices us and it will all be over. We may feel so anxious and so overwhelmed that we just want to quit or walk away. But Jesus today, Jesus calls us, invites us, implores us, encourages and empowers us to do exactly the opposite. Not to pull back, but to speak up. Not to walk away, but to jump all in. For this is our opportunity to testify. This is our chance to share God's dream, to live our alternative vision for what this world can and shall be, and to invite our neighbors to join us. It's what the prophet Isaiah articulates this morning. In a very similar context of wars and destruction, the world seeming to pull apart at the seams. Look, God says to us, keep looking for the signs, keep looking for evidence of the changing, for glimpses of this world being renewed. For I am creating a new heaven and a new earth, God says. So be glad and rejoice forever in what I'm creating, a world with no more weeping or crying, no more exploitation of those who labor hard, apparent enemies eating together, enjoying the abundance of the earth. They won't hurt or destroy at any place on my holy mountain, says the Lord. That is a promise well worth sharing, a vision well worth living toward. And doing so doesn't mean that everything suddenly gets easier, that the winds and the waves instantly calm, but it does ground us. It does provide us both with direction and a stable place to stand in a way of life that lasts. I wonder sometimes if this just might be the most essential, both basic and necessary vocation of the church. This prophetic ministry of holding fast, not being stubborn or refusing to adapt or trying to recreate some nostalgic version of the past, but this courage to endure, to testify to God's dream, not just as a wish, but as a real possibility and promise of a world without hurt or destruction. This willingness to hold on, to keep on keeping on, to invite others to join us in this way, to put one foot in front of the other, to take just the next step, not needing to know exactly where every step will land along the way, but trusting that each step matters. Standing tall amid the storm, the chaos, the noise, living the gospel, the good news of God's unconditional love in an ever-changing world, reminding ourselves and reminding each other who we are and whose we are and what we're about. No matter how far we've been blown off course in the past, no matter how discouraged we feel in the present, we hold fast to God's vision. We keep testifying, keep bearing witness, keep displaying the reality of God's dream. We keep loving, we keep forgiving, we keep building beloved community, because that's who we are, and we refuse to become something else, including especially the harm we oppose. And all of this, of course, this prophetic ministry of endurance, this holding fast to God's dream, we do all of this best together, which is one of the many reasons that I am so grateful personally for each of you, for the grace that my life has been folded into the life of this congregation. For you, friends, and I hope you hear this sincerely, you inspire me. You energize me. You challenge me. You stretch me. You teach me. You raise my awareness. You encourage me and help me to keep holding fast amid the storms, to keep putting one foot in front of the other, giving thanks that we are walking this way together. Your extravagant generosity, the way that you love our neighbors tangibly, giving food, giving clothing, giving toys, giving cleaning supplies whenever we ask, not looking away from the needs in our neighborhood, but noticing the needs and responding. Your selfless servanthood, the ways that you offer your time and your talent with our community partners, out at Miller Community House or Kent Social Services or the County Clothing Center, Saturdays at Lord's Lunches and out at the Shepherd's House overnight and at Habitat for Humanity and Lions Clubs and Rotary Clubs and more places than I can possibly name. Serving on city boards, commissions to invest yourself in the well-being of our community, and doing all the little things behind the scenes too. Picking up trash in our neighborhood, providing rides for each other, writing notes of encouragement, sharing meals, just checking in, doing whatever needs to be done so that your neighbors know that you love them. Your courageous advocacy, too, especially these days, staying alert to the world and opportunities to speak up and to speak out. Attending protests and demonstrations, contacting elected officials and others in positions of power, and keeping at it, holding on, even when it feels like your voice isn't being heard. Your kindness, your simplicity, your gentleness, your goodness, your care for the goodness of God's creation, providing a place of belonging, a place of blessing for everyone. When so much in the world feels shaky and uncertain, you help me to hold fast, and you provide me a stable place to stand. And I pray, that you experience that too, in each other, that inspiration and support and encouragement. For what a blessing it is, what a joy and a gift, to ground ourselves in a community built on a foundation, a firm foundation of gratitude and kindness and justice and generosity. A congregation, a community of faith that is actively building these values into the world, that's committed to realizing the vision that we're given today by Isaiah, a peaceable world, this world, healed and renewed. We're not perfect in this, of course, either as individuals or as a congregation, but we are trying, taking one step at a time, testifying to God's dream, and trusting that each step matters. So thank you. Thank you, church, for being church in all the ways that you do. Thank you for holding fast and helping each other to hold fast too. By God's grace, may we stay at it. May we keep testifying to who we are and whose we are and what we are about in this world. May it be so. Amen.
Thank you for listening to this edition of the United Methodist Church of Kent Sermon Podcast. For more information about the church, visit www.kentmethodist.org.